I do want to let Autotech have a chance to say something. How you doing, Autotech?
Hello.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just listening to,
Hmm.
I'm just listening to everything that's being said. Uh, Thanks for, putting this all together. I'm really, as I said when I joined the Discord, I'm really tired of both sides just screaming at each other. Um, and, uh, and I think that personally, in my opinion, uh, both sides just making assumptions about the other. Um, it's stuff like this is what led, as bad as it is, stuff like this is what creates the opportunity for someone, is what creates the opportunity for someone like Trump to come along uh, and basically tap into that. And then when the election doesn't go how Trump, or as a former supporter myself, when it doesn't go the way that they want it to go, it ends up resulting in, as bad as it is, it ends up resulting in what we saw. So, I guess my opening statement slash opinion is that this entire thing, even though a particular party bears most of the responsibility,
Hmm.
this entire thing is literally on all of us as a country because of our refusal to want to even bother to listen to the other side because we're all just we're all just puffed up with pride.
Hmm. I think that there could be some legitimacy to that statement. For sure, this country has a problem. Well, I don't even know if it's just this country. It's probably a worldwide thing. It's like a human condition thing. Has a problem with trying to talk to people who have differing opinions and getting out of their like comfort zone. Getting out of like their echo chamber of their own worldviews. And yeah, that for sure could lead to really bad things, such as Trump. I think I don't think that's an unfair statement to say. Um, yeah.
Uh,
Did you
yeah, basically,
go ahead?
I got, but yeah, basically, I was basically raised in a conservative home. I was basically raised in a conservative home. My, uh, I never really strayed too far from that, though I have recently left the GOP in favor of the Libertarian Party. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I still have I still have plenty of conservative leanings. Basically, it's just this two party system is very broken, and there's all this hyperbole both in contemporary media such as Fox, CNN, but also social media. I do believe in the right to freedom of speech, but social media has not helped either. And as someone who had an echo chamber myself, I definitely agree that the echo chamber creates a problem. But another thing is the internet, even though it's becoming increasingly so that we no longer have uh, the ability to hide behind a screen as technology catches up with it. Uh, but there's still this false sense of protection being behind a screen, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or Reddit or whatever. And there's this false sense of protection, and like I can say, I there's this false sense of protection where I can say whatever I want to somebody and be as rude as I want without possibly having to deal with that person finding my IP address and and perhaps maybe coming out to hurt me, which would be at worst. Uh, at best, you say something completely stupid, and your company or place of employment finds out, and you end up getting fired for it. I'm kind of going through, I guess, what you could say. I'm kind of going through. I'm kind of going through a bit of soul searching, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because again, I was in that echo chamber, and I was so used just to just being in in the mindset of the conservative ideas are always best and the liberal ideas are always wrong, and that's just how it is. And what caused me uh, and what caused me to basically say enough is enough. There is a YouTuber. I don't know if either of you have seen his videos, but he calls himself Legal Eagle. He is a real lawyer. He discusses things. He discusses things that happens. He's been obviously covering the election stuff. Um, but I don't remember the name of the video. But he released a video where Rudy Giuliani was claiming election fraud, and at the time, I thought there was a good possibility that fraud had occurred, and but I had gotten tired of the algorithmic uh, loop that, which granted was partially my fault, but part of it is, of course, the fault of the algorithm. Uh, is part of it, I'd say 50% of it was my fault, 50% of it was the fault of the algorithm for basically keeping me there and keeping me in that mindset. So I got away from Facebook for a while, and somehow this popped up in my recommendations on YouTube. And I watched the video, and it featured an audio recording of Rudy Giuliani. The Pennsylvania judge asked him, and I quote, "So you're claiming there's fraud?" Rudy Giuliani then answers the Pennsylvania judge. He says, "Well, no, I'm not saying there's fraud." And then he tries to backtrack and say, "But there were there were certain irregularities." Now, I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the means, so I've always had an interest there, but I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the means. But I'm pretty sure those two things are close to the same. And so I saw that. So I saw the video, hearing the audio clip, and and I realized that Rudy Giuliani was just taking us all for a ride, and was just taking us all for a ride, and I bet, and so I started watching some other videos that Legal Eagle had put out concerning other topics, and and I came to the realization that that the way events are presented on the right is just as skewed and just as misleading as the same way that events are skewed and presented from the left. And so I'm kind of going through a like I said, I'm kind of going through a transition right now. It feels kind of weird to me, to be honest. But but let's say about let's say about mid to late December, I basically uh, I basically stopped supporting Trump because he was refusing to concede, and he kept going on with the fraud, and there was no evidence being brought forth. And then there was a video that was put out again by Legal Eagle, and it had the audio. It had the audio of where Trump called the Georgia state secretary, and he's trying to persuade the Georgia state secretary to find 11,780 more votes for him. And so at that point, not knowing full well that there were still people in the GOP that's like, Trump won this election, Trump won this election. I'm not talking about like the voters. I'm talking about elected officials. I'm like, I can't be a part of this party no more because this is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I want to personally tell you that it is magnificent that you were able to um bring yourself out of the bubble. Um the bubble, the echo chamber, whatever you want to call it, it affects everybody on every single side of the aisle. I know that when I get into I guess you'd call them debates, I often come across points that I never that the other side presents to me that I never really have heard from the media that I watch, which is one of the reasons why I do this, because I like being able to see those points, and I like being able to research those points, and challenging my worldview. Um I will say that my experience with media has been like this. There is a bias to everything that you are going to watch media wise. Every news source, every alternative news source, whatever it is going to have a bias, and it's going to have an agenda to bring you towards whatever their biases are. The difference is that some news sources are much more disingenuous in presenting the what they considered their facts to you, and some news sources will even make up facts. The Trump administration is the administration of alternative facts. That was his administration that came up with that term, talking about his own people. Um, so it is important for you to be able to recognize where a news source's bias is and how much they are messing with the facts. Whether it is they're leaving out facts, whether it is they are just simply lying about facts, whether it is they are just choosing to cover one story over another, because that will give you the best, more dynamic look at any given situation.
And and if I may, as someone who was in that bubble, could I perhaps maybe shed some light onto why there's still people, uh, there's still plenty of people, despite what happened in D.C.
Of course.
There's still plenty of people who just refuse to accept the fact that the election of Biden was legitimate.
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
reason why someone who was there, and I know firsthand, the reason why they think that way, the reason why they just refuse it, is because when it comes to media, such as a good example, CNN, uh, during the 2016 election, uh, in the 2016 election, those of us on the right, we called it the Clinton News Network because there were because well, we believed that CNN was very much in favor of Hillary Clinton. But jumping ahead 4 years, in 2020, we had what was the wrongful killing of George Floyd, and I believe that anyone would agree that he should not have been killed the way he was. And I do agree there were peaceful protesters. I do agree there were peaceful protesters, but at the same time, you did have those opportunists, and I call them opportunists for a reason. Uh, they, that there were these opportunists who saw it as a reason to riot, and and I don't have a problem with the phrase. I don't have a problem with the phrase Black Lives Matter. But many people who are either conservative or still hold some conservative tendencies, what they have a problem with is they have a problem with the group. What they have a problem with the official organization Black Lives Matter, because there are some things such as the tearing down of the nuclear family, which conservatives hold as being very fundamental to the foundation and the maintaining of a Western society. Um, but when there are riots that are done in the name of the Black Lives Matter movement, and when you have CNN or MSNBC or even some people, some elected officials in the Democrat Party, you have those people acting as if though it didn't happen or it doesn't matter or cheering it on. No,
Hmm.
no, people on the right, people on the right's like, well, people on the right's like, well, why should we listen to you? Why should we listen to you? And more importantly, if we did something just as stupid, you would be outraged at us. So why? So a lot of people on the right believe that there is a double standard almost, where it's okay for individuals on the left and certain organizations to do some things, but they cannot. And if they did, they would get punished to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah. So, do you believe that? Do you believe that those organizations were biased in that way?
To an extent,